Human blood pooled on the purple dirt of Xelos, as Commander Sean Hicks of the Earth Defense Force stared defiantly at Supreme Overlord Uko of the Cation Empire, knowing his long battle against this ancient race, once considered immortal, was ending here. Sean's entire squad lay mangled around him, their bodies torn apart by Cation claws and fangs. Uko bared his crimson teeth, his feline eyes burning with centuries of pride. Foolish mortal, thinking you could defy the eternal Cation Empire. We have conquered 1,000 systems in our reign, and you, weak, fleshy humans, thought to steal our dominion. Uko spread his clawed hands, indicating the smoldering debris of EDF fighters on the horizon. Look how your kind dies at our feet. We are eternal, undefeated. The galaxy belongs to Katia and always will. Behind his shattered visor, Sean fixed Uko with a hard stare, blood trickling from his temple. His armor was cracked, his ammo spent, death closing in. The Cations regenerated all wounds, healed from any injury. Entire fleets had broken against their hulls. Armies had shattered on their claws. The EDF was humanity's last hope against the alien menace, and that hope was fading by the second as Cation ships darkened the skies. Sean's fingers moved to the control on his shattered gauntlet. One press and the sacrifice would be complete. The entire 212th Terran platoon, the best humanity had, all dead. To kill this one alien commander, to prove that even immortals could fall to human courage. "You think you're eternal?" Sean spat blood, his voice booming from external speakers. "I'll show you what mortality tastes like." His thumb stabbed down. The world exploded in white fire. Light years away on the Cation homeworld of Nyraxis, the news of Uko's death at the hands of the humans sent tremors through the Immortal Empire. 12 ancient Cation leaders, the High Council, rushed into the Grand Chamber of Eternity for an emergency session. The vast circular chamber, its walls covered in holograms of the Empire's most glorious conquests, buzzed with shock and unease. Each councillor wore flowing robes displaying their rank and lineage. Heated arguments erupted about the meaning of Uko's fall. Mazu, known for his fiery temper, slammed a fist on the crystal table. "The humans must pay for this insult with their lives. We should unleash the Infinity Swarm immediately. Let the nanites feast on their worlds until nothing remains but dust." Zephyr, always the cool strategist, shook her head. "We cannot act rashly. If the humans manage to kill an immortal, they may have other tricks up their sleeves. We must gather intelligence before—" The councillor's words died as the chamber doors slid open. In strode Ravik, Uko's son, his midnight fur bristling and golden eyes blazing pure fury. The young Cation marched to the center of the room and hurled a twisted scrap of metal at the councillor's feet, a charred piece of his father's impenetrable armor. "I demand blood vengeance for the Supreme Overlord." Ravik's voice shook with rage. "Grant me the title of Supreme Commander. I will personally lead our forces to crush the humans and grind their homeworld to rubble. This insult to Cation pride will be repaid 1,000-fold." The councillors glanced at each other, Ravik's battle lust infecting the room. One by one they nodded assent, seeing the raging fire in the young warrior's eyes. Ravik would have his war, and the upstart humans would soon learn the folly of challenging the immortal masters of the galaxy. In the war room of EDF headquarters, Admiral Akira Tanaka hunches over a glowing holotable. The buzz of frantic activity fills the space as officers and technicians rush about, relaying orders and analyzing data streams. Tanaka's eyes narrow as a flickering blue hologram springs to life before him, the haggard face of Lieutenant Commander Ryusei Nakamura transmitting from the chaos of Xelos. Nakamura swallows hard, grief etched into every line of his face. "Sir, it's Commander Hicks. He sacrificed himself to take out the Cation leader, Uko, detonated a fusion charge, killed that immortal bastard, but—" His voice cracks. "The whole platoon, sir. We're all that's left." Tanaka digests the news, his jaw tightening. "Hicks, you brave fool. Gather your survivors and get back to Earth on the double. The cats won't take this lying down." "Understood, Admiral." As Nakamura's hologram fizzles out, Tanaka slams a fist against the table. The war with the Caitians had just kicked into a new gear, and humanity was on the back foot. Immortal warriors who could regenerate from any wound commanded fleets that spanned star systems. The EDF had heart and guts to spare, but against those odds... In the shadow of an alien moon, a sleek EDF stealth corvette glides through the void. In its hold, Agent Kenji Ito checks his gear with meticulous care, the latest in human infiltration tech, designed to fool even the keenest Caitian senses. This was what he had trained for, the chance to stick a knife in the enemy's back. A light flashes on the bulkhead. Go time. Ito slides his helmet on and moves to the airlock, his blood singing with the thrill of the hunt. The cats thought themselves untouchable in their immortal arrogance. Time to show them that even gods could fall, with a whisper in the dark. Back on Earth, in the sterile depths of an EDF black site, Dr. Hiroshi Sato pores over a holographic dissection of a Caitian corpse. The alien's physiology was unlike anything he had seen, organ systems and cellular structures that defied conventional biology. Here was the secret to their regeneration, their seeming immortality. And here, perhaps, was the key to their undoing. Sato's eyes gleam with the fervor of discovery. He would unravel this mystery, find the flaws in the Caitian's armor. For the memory of Sean Hicks and every soldier who had fallen beneath Caitian claws, he would not rest until he had put the secret of immortality in human hands. And armed with that knowledge, Admiral Tanaka would forge a spear to pierce the heart of the Caitian war machine. It was a slim hope, a desperate gambit. But it was all humanity had. In the cold of space and in hidden corners of Earth, the best and brightest of the EDF commit themselves to the impossible, to bring an immortal empire to its knees. The Caitians had ruled the stars for untold millennia, had never known defeat. But they had never faced the indomitable will of the human race, and now with their divine aura shattered by a single act of sacrifice, the cats would learn the true meaning of war. The barren rocky surface of Xerxes IX stretched out in all directions, a lifeless expanse broken only by the yawning mouth of the abandoned mining complex. Agent Kenji Ito, his black stealth suit blending seamlessly with the shadows, crept through the labyrinthine tunnels, his senses on high alert. The hilt of his plasma katana, a gift from his mentor before his first mission, felt reassuring under his palm. Ito entered a dimly lit chamber, the air thick with the stench of stale sweat and rusting metal. In the center of the room stood Zarkul, a rogue Caitian with a scar running down his left eye, a testament to a life of battle and hardship. The grizzled warrior turned to face Ito, his feline eyes glinting in the low light. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Zarkul growled, his voice rough as gravel. Ito stepped forward, his stance wary. "I'm here. Now what's this information you promised?" Zarkul leaned against a crumbling pillar, his claws absently tracing the scar on his face. "The Caitian's immortality. It comes from a rare mineral called Eternium, found only on a handful of planets, including this one." He gestured to the walls around them. "When processed and infused into our DNA, it grants us regenerative abilities and longevity." Ito's eyes widened behind his visor. "And the Caitians are mining it here?" Zarkul nodded grimly. "On a massive scale, stockpiling it for the war against your kind. If they succeed..." He let the implication hang in the air. Ito's mind raced, the pieces falling into place. If the EDF could secure the Eternium mines, cut off the Caitians' supply, it could turn the tide of the war. He raised a hand to his comlink, opening a channel to Admiral Tanaka. "Admiral, this is Agent Ito. I have crucial intel on the Caitian's immortality. We need to..." A deafening explosion rocked the chamber, sending debris raining down from the ceiling. Ito and Zarkul whirled around as a group of Caitian assassins burst through the smoke, their plasma claws crackling with deadly energy. At their head strode Commander Karos, his black armor gleaming in the dim light. "Well, well," Karos purred, his voice dripping with malice. "What do we have here, a traitor and a human spy?" Ito cursed under his breath, his transmission cut off. He drew his plasma katana, the blade humming to life. Beside him, Zarkul unsheathed his own claws, a low growl rumbling in his throat. The assassins charged, their claws slashing through the air. Ito and Zarkul met them head-on, plasma blade clashing against crackling energy. They fought back to back, a whirlwind of deadly precision, Caitian bodies falling at their feet. But the assassins kept coming, an endless tide of fur and fury. Ito's katana flashed, severing limbs and heads, while Zarkul's claws rent flesh and bone. The chamber echoed with the sounds of battle, the air thick with the stench of blood and ozone. Karos lunged at Ito, his claws aimed at the human's throat. Ito parried the blow, his blade scoring a deep gash across the Caitian's chest. Karos roared in pain and rage, redoubling his assault. As they fought, Ito's mind raced. They couldn't hold out forever. They needed to escape to get the information back to the EDF. He caught Zarkul's eye, a silent understanding passing between them. In a burst of desperate speed, they broke through the ring of assassins, sprinting for the tunnel entrance. Plasma bolts sizzled past their heads as they ran, the Caitians giving chase. They raced through the twisting corridors, their pursuers hot on their heels. The tunnel opened up ahead, the stark light of Xerxes IX's surface beckoning. Ito and Zarkul burst out into the open, diving for cover behind an outcropping of jagged rock. Ito slammed a fresh power cell into his katana, the blade sparking back to life. Zarkul crouched beside him, his breath coming in ragged gasps, blood seeping from a dozen wounds. The Caitian assassins poured out of the tunnel, Karos at their head. The commander's eyes blazed with fury as he spotted the two fugitives. "Tear them apart!" he roared, his claws extending to their full, terrifying length. And as he raised his katana to meet the onslaught, he could only pray that his message had reached Tanaka in time, that the EDF could still find a way to win this war. Deep within the bowels of the EDF's secret underground research facility, Dr. Hiroshi Sato hunched over a glowing holographic display, his eyes bloodshot from countless sleepless nights. The xenobiologist's lab coat was stained with sweat and coffee, a testament to his relentless pursuit of the Caitian's secrets. Sato manipulated the hologram with deft fingers, zooming in on a complex strand of alien DNA. "There has to be a weakness," he muttered, his voice hoarse. "Nothing is truly immortal." Around him, a team of scientists worked in silence, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of their equipment. They subjected the Caitian biological samples to every test imaginable, probing the alien cells with cutting-edge nanotechnology and mapping their genetic structure with quantum computers. Days turned into weeks as Sato and his team pushed themselves to the brink of exhaustion. They subsisted on stale coffee and microwaved meals, rarely leaving the confines of the lab. The pressure was immense, the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders. And then, in a moment of pure serendipity, Sato saw it. A pattern in the Caitian DNA, a sequence that seemed to regulate their regenerative abilities. He isolated the sequence and ran a barrage of simulations, his heart pounding in his chest. The results were staggering. When exposed to a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation, the eternium in the Caitians' bodies became unstable, causing their regenerative process to spiral out of control. The alien cells multiplied at an exponential rate, consuming the Caitians from within. Sato's eyes widened as he watched the simulation play out, the Caitian DNA disintegrating before his eyes. "We've got it," he whispered, a grin spreading across his face. "We've found their weakness." He sprinted from the lab, his footsteps echoing through the sterile corridors. He burst into Admiral Tanaka's office, his chest heaving. "Admiral, we've done it!" he gasped, his voice trembling with excitement. "We know how to kill the Caitians." Tanaka leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Explain." Sato outlined his discovery, his words tumbling out in a rush. He described the electromagnetic frequency that could destabilize the eternium, the way it caused the Caitians' regenerative abilities to turn against them. Tanaka listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. When Sato finished, the Admiral stood, his face set with determination. "This is it," he said, his voice like steel. "This is the key to winning this war. Dr. Sato, I want you and your team to develop a weapon that can harness this frequency. We need something portable, something our soldiers can use in the field." Sato nodded, his mind already whirling with designs and schematics. "We'll call it the Eternium Disruptor," he said, a fierce light in his eyes. "A handheld device that can bring even the mightiest Caitian to their knees." Tanaka clasped Sato's shoulder, a rare smile on his weathered face. "Get it done, Doctor. The fate of humanity is in your hands." As Sato and his team worked feverishly to bring the Eternium Disruptor to life, Admiral Tanaka received an encrypted transmission from Agent Ito. The spy's words were terse, urgent. "Admiral, the Caitians are mining Eternium on a massive scale on Xerxes 9. They're stockpiling it for the war effort. If we can seize control of these mines, we can cut off their supply and cripple their ability to regenerate." Tanaka's jaw tightened as he processed the information. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for, a chance to strike a decisive blow against the Caitian Empire. He summoned his top officers and outlined a daring plan. They would mobilize the EDF's most elite units, including the legendary Ghost Squad, and launch a surprise attack on the Eternium mines of Xerxes 9. It was a risky gambit, but the potential rewards were staggering. With the Eternium Disruptor in hand and the Caitian's supply of the precious mineral cut off, the EDF could finally level the playing field. As the EDF forces prepared for the assault, a sense of renewed hope filled the air. For the first time since the war began, victory seemed within reach. But Admiral Tanaka knew that the real battle was just beginning. The Caitians would not give up their most valuable resource without a fight, and the EDF would have to be ready for anything. He looked out over the bustling war room, watching as his officers and technicians worked with a newfound sense of purpose. They were the last line of defense, the only thing standing between humanity and annihilation. And as the countdown to the Xerxes 9 offensive began, Tanaka silently vowed to do whatever it took to ensure that the human race survived, no matter the cost. On the Caitian homeworld of Nyraxis, Supreme Commander Ravik stood on the bridge of the Nexus, his black fur bristling with anticipation. The massive viewscreen before him displayed the awe-inspiring sight of his war fleet assembling in orbit. Sleek obsidian ships, each one bristling with advanced weaponry, fell into formation around the Nexus, the crown jewel of the Caitian military. Ravik's claws tightened on the command console as he surveyed his armada. The Nexus, a colossal dreadnought, dwarfed the other vessels. Its planet-cracking fusion cannon, capable of reducing entire worlds to molten slag, pulsed with barely contained energy. The doors to the bridge hissed open, and Ravik turned to face an unexpected visitor. His estranged brother, Kavik, strode onto the bridge, his white fur a stark contrast to Ravik's midnight black. Kavik, a renowned diplomat and scholar, had long opposed the Caitian Empire's expansionist policies, advocating for peaceful coexistence with other species. "Ravik, please reconsider this path of war," Kavik pleaded, his voice strained with emotion. "This aggression will only lead to the downfall of our people." Ravik snarled, his pride and rage blinding him to reason. "You dare question my authority, brother? The humans have challenged our immortal rule. They must be crushed." Kavik shook his head, his eyes filled with sorrow. "The humans are not to be underestimated, Ravik. Their resilience and determination will be our undoing." Ravik's patience snapped. He gestured to his elite guard, who seized Kavik roughly by the arms. "Remove this traitor from my sight." As the guards dragged Kavik from the bridge, he shouted a final warning. "You are making a grave mistake, Ravik. The humans will fight to their last breath." The doors slammed shut, cutting off Kavik's words. Ravik turned back to the viewscreen, unmoved by his brother's pleas. He tapped a button on the command console, opening a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. We will bring the fury of the Caitian Empire down upon the humans and remind them of their place in the galaxy." The Nexus shuddered as its mighty engines roared to life. The fusion cannon glowed with an eerie light, ready to unleash destruction on an unimaginable scale. One by one, the ships of the Cation warfleet vanished into hyperspace, hurtling towards human space and the promise of glorious conquest. In the depths of Nyraxis's capital city, a group of Cation rebels huddled in a dimly lit safe house. At their head stood Neela, Zarkul's sister, and a skilled hacker. She leaned over a holographic display, her claws flying over the keys as she worked to breach the High Council's security systems. If we can expose the truth about the Eternium and its effects on our immortality, it could spark a revolution, Nyla said, her eyes never leaving the screen. The people will see the Council's lies and corruption for what they are. The rebels nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. They knew the risks, but they believed in Nyla's cause. The Cation Empire had to be stopped, its plans for conquest abandoned before it was too late. Unbeknownst to the rebels, a mole lurked in their midst. A sleek, grey-furred Cation named Zephyr, one of Ravik's most trusted agents. She watched Nyla work, her eyes glinting with malice. She had infiltrated the rebel group on Ravik's orders, monitoring their activities and waiting for the right moment to strike. As Nyla's hack neared completion, Zephyr's hand drifted to the plasma pistol concealed beneath her cloak. Soon, she would expose these traitors and crush their pitiful rebellion. Ravik's plan would proceed unhindered, and the humans would learn the true power of the Cation Empire. The EDF strike force, cloaked in the shadows of Xerxes IX's eternal night, plummeted through the planet's thin atmosphere. In the lead dropship, Captain Marcus Raven felt the familiar rush of adrenaline surge through his veins as he checked his gear one final time. His bionic left arm, a testament to battles past, whirred softly as he flexed his fingers around the grip of his Eternium disruptor. 2 minutes to drop, the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Scans show heavy Cation activity around the mine complex. Raven nodded grimly. They won't know what hit them. Ghost Squad, sound off. One by one, his team of elite soldiers chimed in, their voices steady despite the impending chaos. They were the best of the best, hand-picked for this mission, each one a master of stealth and combat. The dropship shuddered as it neared the LZ, anti-aircraft fire streaking past the viewports. Raven felt the familiar lurch as the ship's belly opened, revealing the war-torn landscape below. Go, 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 he roared, leaping from the ramp and into the fray. The Ghost Squad fanned out as they hit the ground, their advanced stealth armor shimmering as it adapted to the terrain. They moved like ghosts through the jagged rocks and twisted metal, their footfalls silent despite the bulky gear they carried. Raven led the way, his enhanced senses scanning for any sign of the enemy. The mine complex loomed ahead, a sprawling labyrinth of tunnels and caverns that delved deep into Xerxes IX's crust. Alpha Team, secure the perimeter, Raven ordered, his voice low over the encrypted comm channel. Bravo, you're with me. We're going to plant those charges and bury this place. They split off, moving with practiced precision. Raven and his squad slipped into the mines, the darkness enveloping them like a shroud. The tunnels were narrow and winding, the walls slick with condensation and streaked with glowing veins of Eternium. Raven's HUD lit up as it detected movement ahead. He raised a fist, signaling his team to halt. Shadows shifted in the gloom, the telltale glint of Cation armor catching the light. Now! They burst from cover, a flurry of movement and muzzle flashes. The Cations reacted with inhuman speed, their claws extending as they charged. But the Ghost Squad was faster. Pulses of electromagnetic energy ripped through the air, finding their marks with unerring accuracy. The Cations convulsed as the Eternium in their bodies destabilized, their regenerative powers turning against them. They fell one by one, their bodies twitching and writhing on the cold stone floor. Raven stepped over the fallen, his jaw set with determination. Keep moving, we've got charges to plant. They pushed deeper into the mines, the veins of Eternium growing thicker and more frequent. The air hummed with energy, the hair on the back of Raven's neck standing on end. There, he said, pointing to a massive support column that soared into the darkness above. "That's our target. Rig the charges and let's get the hell out of here." As his team set to work, the comm crackled to life. "Captain, this is Alpha Team. We've got incoming hostiles, a lot of them. Looks like they were waiting for us." Raven cursed under his breath. "Copy that. We're almost done here. Hold them off as long as you can." The charges were set, the timers ticking down with merciless precision. Raven and his squad turned to make their escape, only to find their path blocked by a wall of Cation warriors. At their head stood Commander Karos, his armor still scorched from his earlier encounter with Agent Ito. His eyes blazed with fury as he pointed a clawed finger at Raven. "You dare to defile our sacred mines, human filth," he snarled. "You will pay for this with your lives." Raven raised his disruptor, his bionic arm whining with power. "You're welcome to try, Fleabag." The battle was joined, a whirlwind of claws and plasma. The Ghost Squad fought with desperate skill, their disruptors evening the odds against the regenerating Cations. But Karos was a force of nature, his claws rending armor and flesh with equal ease. He lunged at Raven, a blur of speed and fury. Raven parried the blow with his bionic arm, the metal groaning under the impact. They traded blows, each one a killing strike turned aside at the last moment. Karos pressed his advantage, driving Raven back with a flurry of swipes. Raven's foot caught on a loose rock, sending him stumbling. Karos pounced, his claws poised to tear out the human's throat. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Raven saw his opening, a gap in the Cation's defenses. With a roar of defiance, he brought his disruptor up and fired point-blank into Karos's chest. The electromagnetic pulse ripped through the Cation's body, his regenerative powers overloading in a cascade of energy. Karos convulsed, his eyes going wide with shock and pain. He toppled, his body twitching and smoking on the mine floor. Raven staggered to his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Around him, the Ghost Squad mopped up the last of the Cation warriors, their disruptors flashing in the gloom. "Charges are set, Captain," one of his soldiers reported. "We've got 2 minutes to clear the blast radius." Raven nodded, his eyes never leaving Karos's fallen form. "Move out, double time." They raced through the tunnels, the timer ticking down in their HUDs. The mine complex shook with distant explosions, the Cations throwing everything they had at the retreating humans. As the ship clawed for the sky, the charges detonated. The ground heaved and buckled, a massive plume of dust and debris erupting from the mine shaft. The complex collapsed in on itself, burying the precious Eternium under millions of tons of rock. Raven sagged against the bulkhead, his armor scorched and dented, but a fierce grin split his face as he watched Xerxes 9 recede in the viewports. "Admiral Tanaka, this is Captain Raven," he said, opening a comm channel to the EDF fleet. "Mission accomplished. The Eternium mines are destroyed." "Well done, Captain," Tanaka's voice crackled over the link. "But the fight is far from over. The Cation Armada is on the move, and they're out for blood." As the strike force set course for the rendezvous point, Raven knew that the hardest battle was yet to come. But with the Eternium disruptors at their side and the indomitable human spirit in their hearts, he knew that victory was within reach. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the EDF would not rest until the Cation threat was ended, once and for all. In the heart of human space, the EDF fleet gathered around the Titan, their flagship and last line of defense. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the holographic displays flicker with real-time data. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, their faces illuminated by the glow of their consoles. "Admiral, we've received word from Captain Raven," a communications officer reported. "The Eternium mines on Xerxes 9 have been destroyed." Tanaka nodded, a grim smile on his lips. "Good, but the fight is just beginning. The Cation fleet will be here any moment." As if on cue, the sensors blared a warning. "Hyperspace signatures detected. The Cation Armada has arrived." Tanaka turned to his tactical officer. "Assume defensive formation Delta 6. Titan at the center, escorts on the perimeter. Charge all weapons and raise shields. The EDF fleet moved into position, the smaller ships forming a protective ring around the massive bulk of the Titan. Its hull bristled with railgun turrets and missile launchers ready to unleash hell on the enemy. Across the void, the Caitian fleet emerged from hyperspace, a swarm of sleek predatory ships led by the monstrous form of the Nexus. On its bridge, Supreme Commander Ravik bared his fangs in anticipation. "Target the Titan with the fusion cannon," he ordered, his claws digging into the armrests of his command chair. "I want that ship reduced to atoms." The Nexus's cannon began to charge, a swirling vortex of energy building at its muzzle. On the Titan, alarms screamed as the sensors detected the massive energy buildup. "Admiral, the Nexus is preparing to fire its planet cracker," the tactical officer shouted. Tanaka gripped the edge of the holotable, his knuckles white. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Nexus. We have to take out that cannon before it fires." The space between the two fleets erupted into a maelstrom of weapons fire. EDF ships unleashed a barrage of missiles and railgun rounds, the projectiles streaking through the void like meteors. The Caitian ships responded with plasma beams and graviton torpedoes, their advanced shields absorbing the brunt of the human weapons. The Titan and the Nexus traded blows, their hulls scorched and battered by the relentless onslaught. Explosions blossomed across their shields, the energy barriers flaring and crackling under the strain. Amidst the chaos, a lone Caitian shuttle wove through the battle, dodging debris and weapons fire with uncanny precision. Inside, Captain Raven and the Ghost Squad checked their gear, preparing for the most crucial mission of their lives. "Remember the plan," Raven said, his voice steady despite the turbulence. "We board the Nexus, fight our way to the fusion cannon's control room, and sabotage it from within." The shuttle docked with the Nexus, its mimicry of Caitian codes allowing it to slip past the Dreadnought's defenses. The Ghost Squad disembarked, their Eternium disruptors at the ready. They moved through the ship's corridors like phantoms, planting explosives and engaging in fierce firefights with the Caitian crew. The tight confines of the ship turned the battle into a brutal close-quarters affair, with plasma claws and energy blades clashing in a deadly dance. As the Nexus's cannon neared full charge, Raven and his team reached the control room. The door slid open, revealing Supreme Commander Ravik waiting for them, flanked by his elite guard. "Welcome, humans," Ravik snarled, his eyes glinting with malice. "You're just in time to witness the end of your pathetic species." Raven raised his disruptor, his jaw set with determination. "Not on my watch, Furball." The room exploded into violence, the Ghost Squad engaging Ravik's guards in a desperate battle. Plasma bolts and energy blades crisscrossed the cramped space, scorching the walls and filling the air with the stench of ozone. Raven lunged at Ravik, his disruptor clashing against the Supreme Commander's crackling claws. They fought with a savage intensity, each driven by a burning hatred for the other. The fate of both fleets, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance as the battle raged on, the future to be decided by the courage and skill of a handful of human warriors. In the chaos of the Nexus control room, Captain Raven and his team battled Supreme Commander Ravik and his elite guard. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as the two forces clashed, the confined space lit by the flashes of their weapons. Raven ducked behind a sparking console, his Eternium disruptor humming in his hands. He popped up, firing a pulse at a charging Caitian. The warrior convulsed as the disruptor overloaded his regeneration, dropping him in a smoking heap. "Keep pushing forward," Raven shouted over the din of battle. "We have to reach that control panel." Across the room, Ravik snarled, his eyes locked on Raven. The Supreme Commander lunged, his plasma claws extended. Raven met him head-on, his disruptor clashing against Ravik's crackling energy blades. They dueled fiercely, striking and parrying in a deadly dance. Ravik's claws scored deep gashes in Raven's armor, the metal sparking and hissing, but Raven fought on, his bionic arm absorbing the blows. In a burst of desperate strength, Raven slammed his disruptor against Ravik's chest. The weapon pulsed, the electromagnetic energy surging through the Supreme Commander's body. Ravik convulsed, his regeneration spiraling out of control. He collapsed, his body twitching as the disruptor drained the life from him. Raven staggered back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Around him, the Ghost Squad mopped up the last of Ravik's guards, their disruptors making short work of the Cation elites. "To the control panel now," Raven ordered, sprinting across the room. They reached the panel, its holographic displays flashing with warning sigils. Raven's eyes widened as he scanned the readouts. The fusion cannon's firing sequence had already begun, the energy build-up nearing critical mass. "It's too late," he said, his voice grim. "We can't stop the firing sequence. The cannon's going to fire." He turned to his team, his jaw set with determination. "Get back to the Titan. Evacuate as many as you can." "But sir," one of the soldiers protested, "what about you?" Raven's hand drifted to the detonator on his belt, the one linked to the explosives they had planted throughout the Nexus. "I'm going to make sure this ship never fires its cannon. Now go. That's an order." The Ghost Squad hesitated for a moment, their loyalty warring with their duty. Then, one by one, they nodded and turned to leave, their footsteps echoing as they raced from the control room. Raven watched them go, a sense of calm settling over him. He knew what he had to do. With a steady hand, he lifted the detonator and pressed the trigger. Explosions bloomed throughout the Nexus, the charges the Ghost Squad had planted, ripping through the Dreadnought's hull. The ship shuddered, alarms screaming as critical systems failed. In the control room, consoles exploded in showers of sparks, the holographic displays flickering and dying. The fusion cannon, its firing sequence interrupted, began to destabilize. Energy backwashed through its conduits, the build-up reaching catastrophic levels. Raven closed his eyes as the world around him dissolved into white light. The Nexus vanished in a blinding flash, the explosion consuming the ship and its crew in an instant of unimaginable destruction. The shockwave rippled outward, slamming into the surrounding ships like a hammer blow. The Titan, its shields already strained to the breaking point, shuddered under the impact. Explosions chained across its hull as the mighty warship began to break apart. On the bridge, Admiral Tanaka gripped the command console as the deck heaved beneath his feet. Alarms blared, the light of damage reports painting the smoke-filled air a hellish red. Tanaka's jaw tightened. He knew the Titan was doomed, the damage too severe to withstand, but there was still a chance to save some of his crew. "Sound the evacuation order," he commanded, his voice steady despite the desperation of the moment. "All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now." As the bridge crew scrambled to obey, Tanaka turned his gaze to the view screen, watching as the remnants of the EDF fleet struggled to disengage from the battered Cation ships. The explosion of the Nexus had thrown both armadas into disarray, ships spinning out of control or drifting powerless, their crews fighting desperately to restore order. It was a scene of utter chaos, a far cry from the swift and decisive victory the humans had hoped for. But even as the Titan shook itself apart around him, Tanaka felt a flicker of grim satisfaction. They had struck a blow against the Cations, had shown that even immortals could bleed. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted, if only a little. As the escape pods blasted away from the dying Titan, Tanaka stood tall on the bridge, watching as his ship, his home for so many years, began its final plunge into oblivion. In the smouldering ruins of the Nexus, the Cation High Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber of Eternity, once a testament to the Empire's immortal glory, now lay in shambles. Holograms flickered and died, the images of past conquests now a bitter mockery. The councillors, their robes tattered and stained with the blood of their fallen warriors, gathered around the cracked crystal table. Mazu, his fur singed and his eyes wild with fury, slammed his fist against the fractured surface. "This is an outrage! The humans must pay for this insult with their lives!" Zephyr, her once pristine fur matted with grime, shook her head. "We underestimated them, Mazu. They found a way to turn our own immortality against us. We must tread carefully." The doors to the chamber burst open, silencing the bickering councillors. In strode Zara, her black fur gleaming in the dim light. The young Cation, her eyes burning with a fierce determination, marched to the center of the room. "Esteemed councillors," she began, her voice ringing with authority, "I come before you with a vision for the future of our empire, a future where we rise from the ashes of this defeat, stronger and more powerful than ever before." The councillors exchanged wary glances, but Zara pressed on. "For too long we have relied on our immortality as a crutch. We have grown complacent, arrogant in our belief that we are invincible, but the humans have shown us the folly of our ways." She turned, fixing each councillor with a piercing gaze. "I propose a new path, a path of innovation, of adaptation. We must evolve, or we will perish." Mazu scoffed, his claws flexing. "And who are you to dictate the future of the Empire, youngling?" Zara's lips curled in a smile. "I am Zara, daughter of the rebel leader Nyla. I have seen the corruption and stagnation that plagues our society, and I have the knowledge and the will to lead us to a new era of glory." She reached into her robes, pulling out a sleek silver device. Behold the future of the Cation Empire. The device pulsed with an eerie blue light, casting a ghostly glow across the chamber. The councillors leaned forward, their eyes widening. "This is the Eternium Infuser, a device that will grant us the power of immortality without the need for constant exposure to the mineral. With this technology, we will create a new generation of Cation warriors, faster, stronger, and more resilient than ever before." The councillors murmured amongst themselves, a mix of awe and trepidation in their voices. Zara raised a hand, silencing them. "But that is not all. We must also reshape our society, our very way of life. We will establish breeding programs to ensure that only the strongest and most capable Cations survive. We will forge a new empire, one built on the principles of strength, ruthlessness, and unwavering loyalty." She turned, her eyes blazing with a fierce intensity. "I ask you now, esteemed councillors, to grant me the title of Supreme Commander. Together, we will lead the Cation Empire to a new age of dominance and crush the humans who dared to defy us." The councillors looked to one another, a silent communication passing between them. Then, one by one, they nodded their assent. Zara smiled, her fangs glinting in the dim light. "Then it is decided. The Cation Empire will rise again, stronger and more powerful than ever before, and the humans will learn the true meaning of fear." As the councillors filed out of the chamber, Zara stood alone, her gaze fixed on the stars visible through the shattered dome above. The weight of her new title settled on her shoulders, a mantle of power and responsibility. She knew the path ahead would be long and arduous, fraught with challenges and sacrifices. But she was ready to lead her people to glory, to crush the humans who had dared to defy them. In the heart of the command center, Admiral Tanaka stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, his brow furrowed in thought. The battle against the Cations had taken a heavy toll on the EDF fleet, leaving them vulnerable and exposed. "Admiral, the latest reports from our intelligence network have come in," a young officer said, handing Tanaka a datapad. Tanaka scanned the information, his eyes widening. "The Cations have a new leader, Supreme Commander Zara, and she's implementing a series of reforms aimed at transforming their empire into a more efficient war machine." He tapped the datapad, bringing up a series of schematics and genetic sequences. "They're developing new weapons technologies and establishing breeding programs to create a new generation of warriors. They're evolving, adapting to our tactics." The officer nodded grimly. "What are your orders, sir?" Tanaka set the datapad down, his jaw tightening with resolve. "We have to evolve as well. We've learned hard lessons in this war, and it's time we put them into practice." He turned to the assembled officers and technicians, his voice ringing with authority. "I want a complete overhaul of our command structure, streamline our decision-making process, cut through the red tape. We need to be able to respond to threats quickly and decisively." He gestured to the holographic display, zooming in on a cluster of star systems. I also want our best minds working on new weapons and defensive technologies. We have to stay one step ahead of the Caitians, anticipate their moves before they make them. The officers nodded, a renewed sense of purpose filling the room. Tanaka turned back to the display, his eyes hard with determination. This war is far from over. The Caitians may have the advantage of immortality, but we have something they'll never understand: the indomitable human spirit, the will to fight and survive against all odds. He clenched his fist, his voice rising with conviction. We will not let them break us. We will stand tall in the face of their aggression, and we will fight until our last breath, for Earth, for humanity, for the future. As the officers dispersed to carry out their new orders, Tanaka stood alone before the holographic display. The weight of the war settled on his shoulders, a burden he had carried for far too long. But he would not falter, would not yield. He had sworn an oath to defend humanity, to lead them through the darkness and into the light, and he would fulfill that oath, no matter the cost. The war between the humans and the Caitians had entered a new phase, a desperate struggle for survival and dominance, and Admiral Tanaka would be the one to guide humanity through the storm, to lead them to victory. No matter how long it took, no matter how many lives were lost, he would not rest until the Caitian threat was vanquished once and for all. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.